And so I would make a motion that we support this resolution of censure and do that tonight so that the State Central, when they convene, will have a sense of where Danbury stands on this.
Second.
There's a motion made and second. Tom?
I don't know. We can do discussions finally.
Well, it's discussion on the motion. There's been a motion made, and now there's discussion on the motion, probably. So.
You know, on the floor, I was a stick with Joe, or I'm sticking with Joe guy a couple of years ago. And I know this town committee was very careful in not making it an issue among the town committee, but people deciding who they were going to support on their own. But I saw Joe Lieberman make express statements during and after the primary and during the election 2 years ago, things that he absolutely ran against this time, that he contradicted, that he lied about, supporting a Democratic candidate for president. And he went beyond that. As Kevin said, individuals are free to support who they want to support. But when you take such an aggressive stance, when you attack a unique and uniquely qualified nominee publicly at the other party's convention, how far does it go before there's significant concern raised in the form of a censure or a rebuke? I mean, this seems to beg for that. I remember Zell Miller a few years ago being at the Republican convention and lambasting Democrats, lambasting John Kerry. He wasn't running again, and he was out, so it really wasn't that much of an issue. You know, it seems, and I've discussed this with many people in and outside of politics, that Joe Lieberman just seems to want to have it both ways, all the time. There has to be something of consistency and loyalty. If he doesn't like this party, then he can leave it. He can make his own party. He can run in his own ticket like he did.
Wait, he did?
He did. But he still wants the benefits. And while we have no right to force somebody out under these circumstances, we certainly can express our real deep reservations with the way he's conducted himself. Maybe he'll change. Maybe he'll see the light. I don't know. I don't think so. But there's a lot of people on this resolution. A lot of, not, I won't say important people, but a lot of intelligent people and people who at one time supported him, who have become disappointed. And the only thing, I don't know, my only hesitation here is the last line about asking to resign as a member of the Democratic Party. I don't know if you want to support that or not, just rebuke him. I don't have a problem supporting the resolution as is, but I want to point that out to people. We don't have the right to make him. You can ask him to.
That's what that says to ask.
I know, and I just wanted to highlight that as the only thing that I know some people express some concern about.
Not to weigh in on the motion. I'm not actually staking on a side as of yet. I will, however, just for everybody's conversational pleasure, for all those that are familiar with Huffington Post, it is, or for those unfamiliar with Huffington Post, it is a relatively consistently left-leaning internet news opinion site. And the story that, interestingly enough, popped up as I was looking at Huffington Post this evening before I came here was Obama wants Lieberman to remain in caucus. So just take that into consideration, that is our president-elect telling Senate leaders that he wants Senator Lieberman to remain in the caucus. Take that for whatever it is what it is. I will also point out that Senator Dodd wrote a commentary piece in the Hartford Courant, or there was some commentary in the Hartford Courant from Chris Dodd to the same effect last week. And I will close with the State Central is voting on this next month, so we can wait and take our lead from State Central or provide State Central our opinion. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut anybody off. Next, anybody else have a comment on the motion? Jim?
Joe, the signatories of this are individuals.
Yes, they are.
I don't see any town committee.
No, there's no for this several.
Yeah, unanimously.
Oh, I'm sorry, there is.
There's several on both.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a member of, but
They were individuals.
certainly
They're
do it
only
on-
individuals. These were all individuals. This started as a petition right after Senator Lieberman started supporting John McCain. And this was put out by several members of State Central. They actually drafted the resolution. Then an email went out to everybody, and then you had the opportunity to sign on. And this is the result of the email that went out and people signed on. So some are State Central people, some are elected officials, some are members of various town committees.
There are 2 town committees that have signed off, Hebron and Milford, that I see.
Just as a point of clarification, if I may, and the members of State Central can correct me if I'm wrong. As Diane said, this started as a petition, but now the State Democratic Party, through the executive director, as I understand, has asked for input from the town committees,
Right,
hopefully prior to the December meeting, so they have a sense of where everyone is.
right.
So inasmuch as there's individuals here, what State Central is looking for is town committee direction. I think what our State Central people are looking for is direction from this town committee, whether it be as individuals, a majority, or unanimously, however we proceed. We have no substantive meeting in December, so this is
Correct.
our opportunity.
I see Congressman Maloney came in, and Jim and I have spoken about this resolution in the past, not recently, but a while ago. And as a State Central Committee member, I will actually depart from our rules as long as there's no objection from the body to ask him if he could relay the same thoughts to you that he relayed to me.
Well,
Do you have an objection to that? Jim?
thank you, Joe. First, on Tom's point, I think it's important to be very clear. State Central has taken no position in regard to this proposal. Technically, it was tabled, which is neither a endorsement nor is it a criticism of the proposal. All right, so it was tabled. It was tabled in part, quote, to allow the proponents to circulate it for input to their town committees around the state of Connecticut. Right? So I think just on the facts, I want this town committee to know that State Central has neither said we're happy to have your input, but they have not indicated we want your support or we want your opposition to this specific proposal. Okay. Now, I think what Joe was referring to was the comment I had when he asked me what did I think, and what I think is that I would recommend caution. I will start out right away by saying that I don't think there's anyone more unhappy in the state of Connecticut than I am about what Senator Lieberman did. Speaking for someone he supports as president, whoever that person is, that's his prerogative. But for him to attack and criticize the Democratic nominee, I think was over the line. Right? But that's not. That's my personal view. What is going on in Washington is that the Senate Democratic Caucus is itself evaluating what Senator Lieberman's role should be. So what I'm saying is I'm not any more happy about what Senator Lieberman did than anyone else who wants to criticize him. He did, in my opinion, the wrong thing. That's not the point I'm making and not the point I made to Joe. The point I made to Joe was this, that Harry Reid and the Senate Democrats are making a decision about how to handle the situation vis-a-vis Senator Lieberman. And I would be cautious about us taking a position in effect on that point while the Senate Democratic leadership is still ongoing in their discussion. And the final point, it ties to that, is that the reason that this was tabled was that the point was well made, I thought, that, well, you don't want to do this before the election because it may in some way impact the election one way or another, and we don't want to do that. And that is the final point I made with Joe, is that the election's still ongoing. There are votes to be counted. There's a runoff election between a Democrat and a Republican in Georgia, we don't know whether we're at 48, 58 votes, 59 votes, 60 votes, or 61 votes. We still don't know. We don't know where Minnesota is. And for the Democrats in Connecticut to kind of come down and make a firm position before we know those facts, I think prejudges not Senator Lieberman. It prejudges Harry Reid. It prejudges what his options are and what he might want to do in reference to putting together potentially 60 votes, a filibuster-proof supermajority. So that's the point I made, and I conclude with that.
Thanks, Jim. By the way, folks, the runoff in Georgia, that's when we want to win. There's no more miserable and good-for-nothing person on this planet than Saxby Chambliss, the Republican senator in Georgia. So that's a race we want to win. Gene.
I agree with that, especially given what he did to
Max Cleveland in 2002.
Can I just, I hear, and Jim and I have had this conversation as well, and I understand and agree with the points that he made. I'm not sure you get 60 Democrats, whether we had 60 Democrats in the Senate, to ever agree, to be able to override a filibuster anyway. And it's not like you become veto-proof because again you're gonna, we just don't have those numbers. What disturbed me even more, and we were at the Stony Hill Inn 2 years ago. People have referred to the fact that indeed what he had committed in front of us to do when he was looking for our support 2 years ago for re-election to the United States Senate, and we did support him. He has not done. In fact, he has done the opposite. He committed to supporting a Democratic president. He indicated that he wasn't going to take a high-profile position on the national stage, but was going to focus on the issues here, back at home in the state of Connecticut. That clearly hasn't happened. But what infuriated me even more, after the meeting he had last week with Senator Reid, the majority leader, who, from those discussions, it was alleged that he would be stripping Lieberman of his Homeland Security chairmanship. And so what did Lieberman do? And confirmed it. He's going to have conversations with Mitch McConnell, the minority leader. So I don't know where it ends, I guess, is the question. And I understand it's a delicate issue and should be a delicate issue. But I think in terms of taking a position as it relates to sending a message, I'm not suggesting, and again, it's someone's right, as everyone has said here aptly, to support whom they choose. But to send a signal from Danbury to State Central as to what our sense is as it relates to some censure. I'm not suggesting that we even go as far as suggesting that he leave the party. That's not what I'm suggesting. And again, this is a very fluid situation because I'm sure the dialogue continues with the Senate Democrats as well as in leadership, as well as whatever impact there may be or input from our president-elect. This almost becomes in a very personal, internal matter within the state of Connecticut for many of us, I think, and it's just difficult when you go out on the limb and you take a position and you stick with Joe, as Tom aptly said, and I did, and Jim and others, many others in this room, when it wasn't necessarily the most popular thing to be doing as Democrats. We did it, and then, in fact, there wasn't the follow-through on what had been pledged to us 2 years ago in a discussion, over 2 years ago in a discussion that took place at the Stony Hill Inn. And, I know everyone's upset. I'm upset about it. Senator Lieberman and I always had a wonderful working relationship, certainly with his staff in the 12 years that I served as mayor. But, there comes a point where you just need to draw a line in the sand, and I think he's crossed it.
Basically, he is an independent now who is caucusing with the Democrats.
Similar to Senator Sanders.
So he would be, whatever action we take, we would not disagree with giving the president the right to ask him to caucus with the Democrats. I mean, if we
Technically true. Functionally, if 169, I think we do need to recognize that. Functionally, if 169 town committees in Connecticut said Joe Lieberman, get the hell out of the Democratic Party, rest assured he will be caucusing with the Republicans in less than 15 minutes. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
And by the way, if it works to his benefit, he'd do it anyway. So, sorry.
Well, actually, caucusing with the minority party never actually works to your benefit. It's always to your benefit to caucus with the majority party. But if one is not deriving any benefit from caucusing with the majority party, then perhaps one will caucus with people who wanted to, at least on the road. I mean, these are considerations for people to take into account. There are no easy answers here, and no one knows what the ramifications of acting or not acting are.
But how can you do nothing after what he's done? How can you sit down and say that there are, nothing happens to them?
You could justify the no vote based on this article alone that Senator Obama, our new president, would like him in the caucus. That alone.
Right.
Would justify it. I'm not suggesting anybody vote yes, I'm not suggesting anybody vote no.
No, you're right.
I'm not even telling anybody right now which way I'm going to vote. And to reprise what Gene said, I will point out, not only did Joe tell us that at Stony Hill Inn, he told me all of those things several times in private phone conversations, him and I, and as I do not see anything substantial having changed in the world from 06 to 08 that would have made it anything worse to justify changing your position to support John McCain, I personally feel like he lied. That said, I think you could justify a no vote premised only on Senator Obama's statement, if assuming it's true. HuffPo is left-leaning enough, I am making an assumption that they're being accurate, Jim.
Again, I want to make clear, I'm not suggesting you vote yes or no either, all right? That's not the suggestion I'm making. What I am saying is that the position that I would look to take at the Democratic State Central Committee is what I just said here, which is that the decision is not ripe. It is not ready. It is not time yet to pull the plug. I don't disagree with Gene saying at some point something needs to be said, something needs to be done about someone who betrayed the Democratic Party. We agree on that. What I'm saying is it's a matter of timing, and I do think, and I want to leave the discussion for the town committee, but I do think that to give Senator Reid all the time he thinks he needs to make a decision, to give President-elect Obama whatever time and opportunity he wants to involve himself, I think that's the prudent thing to do. I understand the sap is running in the tree and people want to do things. I understand that, but I am saying at the same time that it's not springtime yet.
Interesting analogy. I'm sorry, Tom, you had your hand up and I skipped over you and I said I was calling on you next.
I have some concerns with, and I understand the overall strategic approach with wanting to wait until we know the actual vote count or the head count in the Senate, Republican versus Democrat. But that then means that for those who agree with the substance, not the exact wording of this resolution, but those who have problems and agree with the substance of this resolution are saying, fine, we won't say anything as long as it'll get us to 60 or 61 or wherever. And unfortunately, I think that's what happened, I think, the last time. A couple of years ago, many people were told, look, we're so close here. The majority is so precarious. You need to stand fast on this. And a lot of people said, fine, I will. I believe not only in getting the majority, but I also believe in giving somebody a second chance here. Maybe he got a bad hand through the primary. Okay, fine. That being said, keeping in mind what President Obama purportedly said, also read the same articles and reports that Senator Lieberman reached out to the other caucus as well to sort of probe what his opportunities would be there. It's a very difficult position to support. And notwithstanding what we do here tonight, or even what State Central does, it is going to be the decision of the Senate. I mean, Lieberman didn't commit a crime. He can't be, ousted because of that. It's going to be the decision not of the Senate, but of the caucus to assign chairmanships. So I think what we do here today, and I don't see 169 towns all communicating, all agreeing, or even all getting their meetings all done and sending some communication to State Central. But for those who are concerned about this, I think it does send at least a message of disappointment and maybe a way to sort of skin this cat, and I'm sorry about using that term because they're cats, is maybe not the exact wording of this resolution. And first of all, this resolution, I think, maybe is a bit outdated already because now we've gone past the election. But for example, I'm just throwing this out for discussion. It says, whereas Joseph Lieberman sought re-election in 2006, I wouldn't, if I'm going to vote for this, vote for it because he sought re-election as independent in 2006. I don't think that's where people's real big concern is, because those who supported him then aren't upset with that. They're upset with what was said during that time, and then what he did after that.
And the highlights are paragraphs 2 and 3 of
so, right, then you go to 2, 3, and some iteration of paragraph 4, and then maybe finally removing that last phrase of the last substantive paragraph, which is asking him to resign, but this just being a censure or a rebuke as opposed to a demand of resignation. So I think there is rewording that can be done. I would not vote for this in its exact terms that it is before us right now. We could, and again, we're not voting on this. We're voting whether or not we're going to send a message to State Central as to where we really stand on this, or we don't have to.
Well,
so
it's my understanding as chair that the motion was made to approve this. Suggestions could be, number one, it could be tabled to the end of this meeting if somebody wants to work on trying to make some edits. Number one, it can be tabled to another time. It can be reworded, or anybody here could iterate whatever they wish it to say, and it can go in as an amendment, friendly or regular. And those are just several different options, Tom.
I know it's probably for the third time, Mr. Chairman.
No, absolutely, go ahead.
The only way then to move this off the dime one way or the other, in all candor, would be to table this to the end of the meeting, allow some flexibility of some members of this town committee to chat, sort of, and come up with some language while we proceed with the rest of the agenda. And I mean, the maker of the motion, that's it. It's his motion. So I think that would be the way. I think there's some reservations with voting just from reading the body language on the wording as it stands before us right now, but that I think most members want to vote one way or the other.
As long as we take it up tonight, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Why don't we do that so we can at least move through the agenda? We'll take a 5 or 10 minute recess to discuss it, then we'll reconvene and consider the motion. Is that acceptable to the body?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Or everybody who's interested has.
And
we don't need the 5 minutes then.
so I gave a copy to the secretary, and the maker of the motion read it. If you want to read it into the record, just so everyone, if you want to read.
Why don't we do it this way? Since the secretary has a copy, we can get that typed up in final form and forward it to State Central. You were the maker of the motion, and this is different than your motion. So you accept this as a friendly amendment. Bruce, you were the second. You seconded the motion. All right. There's a friendly amendment that has been made by the maker and the seconder of the motion. So the question before the body is approval of the amended draft as circulated.
I'd like to read it.
Please do, so everybody has it.
I think everybody read the original draft. The redraft reads, whereas Joseph I. Lieberman publicly endorsed and actively campaigned on behalf of Republican presidential candidate John McCain, among others, and whereas he attended and addressed the Republican National Convention, directly attacking by name the Democratic presidential candidate Barack Obama, thereby attempting to undermine the election of Barack Obama and other Democratic candidates, and whereas his support of the Republican presidential candidate John McCain cannot be reconciled with the ideals and values of the Democratic Party, and whereas these actions directly contradict his express promises to support the Democratic nominee for president and exhibit extraordinary disloyalty to countless Connecticut Democrats without whom his career as an elected official would have been possible, therefore, be it hereby resolved that we, the undersigned members of the Connecticut, actually it would just be we, the undersigned members of the Danbury Democratic Town Committee, publicly censure and repudiate the words and actions of Joseph I. Lieberman as set forth here and above. The undersigned agree with above resolution. And I can tell you, I asked also State Representative Bartlett to look at this because he is one of the signers of the original petition, the original resolution, and State Representative Bartlett said he agrees with this redraft. I apologize, I didn't circulate it to the other state reps, and on the bonus, I didn't see their name on here, we're trying to do this somewhat quickly. So that's the redraft that's been presented to the Secretary on behalf of the maker of the motion.
Is there any question or comment on the draft of the resolution as read by Tom?
No, the only thing I would say is that we, as part of the motion, directed it be sent to State Central.
It will be. Julie.
I just want to say that it's a great privilege to come to my first town committee meeting and get to vote to censure Joe Lieberman.
Julie, I think it's from the body when I tell you it's not usually that much fun.
Mr. Chairman, just for the edification of everyone, to highlight just very quickly a couple of the changes. The language, and I think the maker of the motion agrees with it, is a little bit tighter. It's not as broad as some of the, I think, somewhat attacking language that may have been in the original one. It doesn't ask expressly for resignation. I think also takes into consideration the fact that the election is over and also brings in directly the issue of previous promises.
And critically, I think what Tom did in the redraft is it repudiates the actions, not the person, which I think is very important. And just, in my opinion, that's not speaking as the chair, that's just speaking as a member of the body.
Let's vote.
That's important. Is there any other question or comment? Seeing no question or comment, we'll take a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries.
Unanimous. Good.